welcome back to Storytime with David Booker. Today we're going to continue on with The Door into Evermoor. And if you remember last time, we were reading about Jon. He's in chapters 3 and 4, where Jon went back to see Atreya. Atreya wasn't there. He'd left about a couple of years ago, and he'd only seen him a couple of weeks ago. So Jon's a little confused about what's going on. Is shown a rack of all his medals and things like that. And he's a little confused because on the bottom of it, normally there would be a motto, is, like the Marines, Marine motto would be there or something. There on his, it only says, "There are other worlds than these." And he hears that from an old guy that's kind of a homeless person on the side of the road, and things are really getting kind of confusing. And he finally takes Gribbles out for a drive, and he's going up this hill to where these trees are. And in his mind, he's seeing the trees as being kind of like knights holding swords, except for one, which turns into a doorway. He opens the door, and he walks through into Evermoor. So that's where we're starting, where he's walking through. So this is start chapter 5. Down! Someone shoves me, sending me tumbling across the grass. At the same time, a blade slices past, tickling my scalp with a flare of wind. Move! The guy who shoved me, from my upside-down perspective, I glimpse a flowing green cloak and leathery vest, parries a slash and counters a thrust. He throws a wheel kick, misses, then uses his momentum to power into an aerial twist, scoring several cuts on his second attacker. His opponents, they're wearing blindfolds with glowing runes just like Blindfold Guy, turn and flee. The green cloak guy lands in a crouch, runs a cloth across the sword, then slides it neatly into a scabbard. Name! He walks over and extends a hand. I grab hold and pull myself up. Jon! I brush twigs and grass from my clothes. If I had to guess, I'd say we're about the same age. He pulls his hood back, confirming my suspicions. Early 20s, Middle Eastern, I think. If not for his worn eyes and haggard expression, he would easily be handsome. You hail from afar. Where? I look around and it suddenly hits me. I am not in San Francisco. Is this Dragon World? I whisper. Before I can register, he's drawn a knife. He's got one pressed against my throat. Answer me. He grabs the back of my head with his other hand, making sure I can't escape. Where are you from? Earth, Bay Area. With each syllable, the blade cuts a little deeper into my neck. He stares hard, then abruptly lets go. I stumble back and dab my throat, gaping at my bloody fingers. You're no threat. That much is clear. He flicks a knife into a chest sheath. There are 5 others like it in a diagonal line, going from his right shoulder to his left hip. May light find you in dark places. He brushes past me and starts walking. Wait! I hurry up beside him. Where are we? 2 ferries east of Ginwind Township. Without slowing, he gives me a once-over. Never heard of Earth, or Bay Area, for that matter. I'm in another dimension. My mouth drops open. It's what? His expression darkens. Hasten your tongue. It's a different world. He stops and squares up with me. I'm acutely aware of the distant birds chirping faintly in the wooded backdrop. Finally, he says, Another plane? Yeah, I think. He puts his hand on his hip and bows his head. That would explain why you appeared out of nowhere, along with your odd clothes and strange speech. The traveler will hail from an adjacent cosm. He will depart in return when he reaches the unbound realm. What are you talking about? No, it cannot be. He regards me with utter disbelief. What do you wield? Do you know arcanics, primal magic, Velic sorcery? I raise my palms in a slow the hell down gesture. Velvet what? Arctic who? The only thing I've wielded are forks and butter knives, unless you were talking about World of Warcraft, where I traded a Thunder Fury for a... Have a care. He stalks forward, moved like a finger. I am not in the mood for jests or riddles. I lurch back, raising my hands a couple of inches higher. Whoa, dude, ho! I'm telling you the truth. He stops a foot away, raking my face with a wire-type gaze. I try not to shrink. It seems to suffice. He backs off and adopts a thinking man's posture. Left arm across his ribs, left hand cupping his right elbow while staircasing his right hand's fingers into his mouth. In the turning of Evermoor, it is written that an extraplanar migrant, the prophesized traveler, will vanquish Lydrea, reach the unbound realm, and set things aright. But it can't be you. You cannot fight. You cannot cast. You just... He looks me up and down as if he can't believe I even exist. You're not the one described in the tome. Wait, Evermoor? What's that? My memory stirs. I've forgotten something important. Evermoor, he spreads his arms. What we call this God-cursed earth, world. My brain affirms it, like a key clicking into a well-oiled lock. Evermoor, the name that rose when I entered the portal. So prophecy predicted I would come into your world? What am I supposed to... He resumes walking. Clearly it is referring to another. Hey! I fell in his step. How do you know I'm not the traveler? What if I reach the unbound realm? He pivots on his heels and storms towards me. Countless heroes have tried and failed. High-tier duelists, fair folk, blade shadow, wizards and sorcerers of every lineage. And you? He jams his finger into my sternum. Are not one of them. Hey, you don't know that, I hiss, smacking his hand away from my chest. You have no idea who I am. You have no idea what I'm capable of. He crosses his arms. Who are you then? And what are you capable of? My expression falters. I'm John Doe, a basic college kid who writes unfinished stories. I have a part-time job and a stable future. That's it. That's me. What about the visions, all the D&D stuff I dismissed as imaginary? It's real. It's right here in front of me. Am I here by design, or is all this random? He interrupts my reverie with, you're shaken. While you recover, you may journey with me. Okay. I don't know what to say. Up is down and black is white, and I'm just along for the dimensional hopping ride. What's your name? I ask as we start down the road. Ren of Barons. Ren will do. I feel an instant nagging at the edge of my brain. I've forgotten something else. What could it be? Then it hits me. Gribbles! I look wildly around. Where's Gribbles? Ren halts, clearly irritated. I know of no one named Gribbles. My dog. I rub my temples, at a complete loss as to what to do. He came here with me. Your dog? Ren laughs, incredulous. How is your dog a matter of concern? I grab his shoulders in sheer desperation. To his credit, he doesn't snap my arm, break my face, or whatever else he's been trained to do. He's my best friend. We have to find him. John, he delicately removes my hand from his shoulders. We have an old saying here at Evermoor. Be dust upon your breath. What? My frustration spills over into my tone. What does that even mean? It means a greater part of you chose your conditions. And though a smaller part of you may not like them, the best course of action is to embrace the present and let things unfold in the spirit of readiness. I forced myself to take a breath. So the greatest part of me is the one that breathes, and the smaller part of me is just the dust. Exactly, he gives a nod. We'll keen our minds, clear our senses, and stay alert for any signs of his presence. Gribbles is his name? Yeah, I take another breath. Still forced, but not as much. Yeah, Gribbles. We'll call it out if we suspect he's near. Otherwise, let's keep to ourselves. Best to avoid unwanted attention. A complicated emotion, a little like faith and a lot like resignation washes through me. Yeah, okay, that's all we can do, right? Indeed. He turns away and resumes walking. You dust upon your breath. Oh, where are we going? Everly Crossing. I wait for a bit, hoping he'll offer more information. Nope. So I prompt him with, is that a city or A trader's outpost. While we are there, watch your step and mind your tongue. Let it wag without a care, and a blade will cut it from your mouth. Great. We're headed for a medieval version of the Star Wars cantina, only I don't have a lightsaber and Ben Kenobi's nowhere in sight. So I should stick by you, right? He chuckled nervously. I chuckled nervously. In case we get hassled. He draws a knife and holds it out. Here. I tentatively accept it with both hands. Thanks. I don't know how to use this. Learn. Right. I clear my throat. Can I at least have a sheath? He undoes some buckles and a couple of ties, then pulls off the just vacated sheath and flips it towards me. Much to my relief, I'm able to rig it into one of my belt loops. So I slide the knife into the sheath, tugging and turning it to make sure it's secure. Those guys who were fighting, with the, I make a vague gesture around my eyes, the blindfolds? Night keepers, he says. Agents of the turret's clandestine service. Oh, what exactly does this They infiltrate gatherings and execute rebels. But they're blind, right? I mean, they would have to be, seeing as how they cover their Ren scoffs. Far from it. Their cloth wrap is highly enchanted. It augments their sight, strength, and martial arts. It also enhances their arcane perception, allowing them to perceive subtler energies. I see. Not really, though. But what if they have to go undercover? I can't imagine a blindfold would help them and blend in. Looks annoyed and perplexed. Undercover? Sorry, it means to gain your enemy's trust by pretending to be someone else. Right, he grunts an affirmative. They don't always wear it. When it's not on their face, it can change their features to a moderate degree. He laughs harshly. The Night Keeper's motto is, "We keep the night at bay." But given their allegiance to the white-veiled queen, many jokes that it's, "We keep the night in place." Magic blindfolds. Magic blindfolds that bless you with nunchuck skills and also double as a super spy imposter mask. I want to know more, but he might shut down if I start geeking again. So I decide to go with a simpler question. What's a white-veiled queen? Ron throws me another look, not irritated this time, but full of an angry, "What are you trying to..." Then he cuts himself short and takes a breath. Apologies, you were born and raised on a different world. There's no reason you would know our history. I'm a little proud that I didn't flinch even though I wanted to. No worries. His voice drops into a hateful growl. The White-Veiled Queen, otherwise known as Lydrea Fairdial, is our sovereign tyrant. She has imposed her will on over half of Evermoor. Are we in her kingdom or is it queendom? Not sure really if we are. The Eldritch Protectorate comprises 9/10 of Evermoor's surface. So when you say over half, I mean nearly all, yes. Has it always been this way? No. When did it change? Over 20 years ago, during the fracture. For Lydrea, our world was ruled by many leaders, each beholden to their own community. The fracture, what's that? A time of great upheaval, rife with chaos, war, and low-shadow treachery. It marks the end of the decline and the beginning of the Shadow Age. How did this happen? I mean, did everyone go crazy, or...? For several millennia, the folk of Evermoor lived in peace. That changed 100 years back when a wizard named Viles Skyseer constructed a network of intricate magics. It allowed for instant communication and in some cases immediate transport of material goods. It was known to all as Velik Tessellate. Instant communication, how is that bad? I cocked my head, puzzled. Well, it isn't, not inherently anyway. But as the Tessellate expanded and grew in power, it spawned a glut of ease and luxury. Subsequently, logic and consensus fell by the wayside, and folks lapsed to anger and vitriol. Few, if any, repeat the consequences of their words and actions. Sounds familiar. On my world, we're spoiled by technology instead of magic. His hooded face turns toward me. Eh? Yeah, it definitely helped, but it's got its downsides. I mean, we haven't collapsed our civilization. Consider yourself lucky. We easily could if we kept on quibbling. When the virus hit, it will only serve to highlight our weaknesses. One of our biggest was the inability to get along with each other. What is a virus? Oh, disease or plague might be a better way to put it. Are you ill? He tensed slightly. I was, but it passed. Some died, but most got better. He relaxes and nods. We stayed healthy in life and limb, but the majority grew increasingly irrational. Our bickering took form as a transmissible curse, the Crimson Rift. It appeared without warning and corrupted the tessellate, repurposing it into a vector of hate. What does it do? If it infects you or whatever, we've been walking up the road in a steady incline, now it's smooth into level ground. It taints your aura, amplifying your anger to a destructive degree. The prevailing theory is that it originated from a buildup of primal energies. Primal, you said that earlier, but I'm not sure if it means what I think. Primal magic is an intentional channeling of pure emotion. It is easily the most powerful of all magics, as it is extremely wild, extremely dangerous. Only masters are able to shape it. Did one of these primal guys mess with the tessellate? No, he shakes his head. That was the first possibility our mages ruled out, as there were too many points of arcane entry. I think a breakdown in dialogue was the underlying cause. Our collective malice grew and festered until it ultimately developed into the rift. The fracture was simply the physical tipping point. In the span of a week, diplomacy vanished and conflict reigned. Bonds and treaties were thrown to the wind. Why is it crimson? The first symptom is a deep reddening around the eyes. After a month, it begins to affect a person's behavior. Depending on their temperament, they become anything from angry to murderous. Did your wizards find a cure? No, after Ledrea seized the tessellate, she cut off access to its intersigned web, allowing the rift to fade away on its own. Eventually, most regained their original demeanor. There are a few, however, who remain brutish. Did people go to war? Aye. Humans, fair folk, wildire? A catch-all term for creatures, entities, and spirits. Non-humans, magical creatures. What? I resist the urge to blitz him with questions. There must have been some who didn't get it. I mean, if it's anything like a virus. He gives a nod. By and large, monks remained unaffected. What about you? It happened shortly before I was born. As a child, I witnessed the last of the Crimson Wars, followed by Ledrea's rise to power. Gaze turns distant. May thought she would bring back the bright age. I think of the stormtroopers punishing the peasantry. I'm guessing she didn't. No, she entranced the masses with her fiery speech, channeling their fear into anger and zealotry. It was part of her plan. She was plotting to conquer all who opposed her. She wouldn't have been able to wreak such havoc if he clenches his jaw and shakes his head, as if his words are causing him tangible pain. We cast our ballots in desperation, appointed Ledrea interim sentinel. She refused to step down and made herself queen. Holy crap, I whispered. You elected her? He nods tightly. We walk in silence for a couple of minutes. Then I say, with the virus, it was mostly physical, philosophy-wise, you could say. It was a flesh and blood metaphor for what we had been doing to each other all along. And what would that be? The same thing as you. We couldn't stop bickering. People said anything and everything without having to explain their logic or reasoning. And it drove us further and further apart. Ironically, what started in our minds and in our bodies. When the virus hit, we had to distance from each other to keep it in check. We found cures and preventatives, but I wish it was so on this cursed world, Ren hisses. The rift is gone, but we have accepted brutality as a new norm. My writer brain approves of the way he says cursed. Cursed. Sounds way better. I think I know what you're talking about. For the last few weeks, I've had visions of Evermoor. The stormtroopers were... The what? I cleared my throat, embarrassed. I didn't know what they were called, so I made up a name for them. The soldiers with the... I stammer for a moment. They always wear armor. Do you call it plate mail? It looks smooth and white, like impossibly white. His face is away and spits in disgust. Iatrix Knights. Oh, okay. What are these Iatrix? Lydria's foot soldiers. Low-level thugs by and large, but some are formidable. A few are dangerous. They were collecting taxes. They seemed Ren interrupts with a harsh bark of laughter. Taxes! Taxes, they may call it that, but taxes are meant to spread opportunity and access. No, if you have any bit of sense, you'll call it what it is, a tribute. Lydria and her cronies are addicted to luxury. There's never enough gold or gimmickry to satisfy their greed. He turns his head and spits again. That makes you, what, a rebel or something? Beneath his hood, his eyes grow cold. I do what is necessary. Right. Didn't mean to pry. On a related note, I've also seen people fighting the knights. They wear dirty gear and stick to the woods. The Birthright Alliance, or just the Alliance for short. They claim to be a movement. In reality, they are just a loose confederation of insurgent warlords, beholden to a rogue named Ardos Ryger. A cruel man, but also capable. He wants to overthrow the queen? Ren nods and claim rule for himself. I let the silence grow, then clear my throat. Yes? Earlier you mentioned the prophesized traveler. Who is that exactly? I raise my hand in capitulation. I know, it's not me. Ren runs an affirmation. Some believe he is a real person, while others think he is simply a metaphor. There are differing opinions on what he will do, but everyone agrees on two things. He will come from a plane not our own, and he will be in possession of Ladinic powers. Ladinic? The story of Ladin Altanic is the oldest tale in all of Evermoor. It tells of a boy who stumbles upon a magic lamp, one that contains a genie, I burst excitedly, who grants true wishes, right? Ren looks miffed. A what? No, the lamp grants wishes, but not just 3, an unlimited number. At first, Altanic thinks it's 3, until he uses the last wish to wish for more wishes. Eventually, he discovers the lamp was left for his future self, who has already gained access to unlimited wishes and is, in a sense, a god. Huh? I scratch my head. Interesting. So what are Ladinic powers? They trump all magic, but not because they are higher up on the arcane hierarchy. He struggles for a second. They form the hierarchy, but at the same time, they are apart from it. That doesn't make sense. I know, he shrugs in defeat. The turning of Evermoor is filled with riddles and paradox. Even now, scribes pour over its dusty breath, trying to wring meaning from the scrawl. A waste of time, if you ask me. And the Unbound Realm, from what I understand, is the final destination. Not death, for death is the beginning of another life, but a definitive endpoint for all of existence. Supposedly, the one who finds it will gain the ability to control reality. I studied the sunlit blue, then turned back to Ren. You said a bunch of people have tried to find it. Why didn't they? It switches locations at random intervals. And according to the turning, it can only be found by one who has already been there. That's absurd. Why seek godhood if you already have it? He shrugs again. It's outside my purview. Up ahead, the horizon gives way to a walled-off town. Excuse me. The road ends at a 30-foot-high, iron-banded gate, bordered by towers on either side. Halfway crossing, he mutters, you will never find a more wretched hum of scum and villainy. Wait, what? I laugh involuntarily. You watch Star Wars? Ren looks puzzled. Why would a star go to war? I'm merely speaking of what I know to be true. Okay, it's just, you said a line from a famous story, famous in my world anyway. He silent for a moment. Then perhaps we are connected in a subtle fashion. It's not my area of expertise. I was never good at arcane philosophy. Arcane philosophy. Cool. So Haverly Crossing. Anything I should know before we arrive? Stay alert, eyes open, night close. Sure. I managed trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. Eyes open, knife close. John, what the hell have you gotten yourself into? All right, that's chapter 5. Next one, we will do chapter 6. This is, I'm loving this. I don't know about you, but I am having a ball. This is my kind of story, so I'm glad we're doing it. And on the next one, we'll do chapter 6, 7, well, do 4 more, or 3 more, 6, 7, and 8. So until then, with a sore throat, this is Dave Booker, wishing you a good day, and thanks for visiting. Hope to see you again on my next video. Bye.